This is way better than we thought, Ravens fans. We have some good news coming out of Ravens camp that we are going to dive into in this video. What is going on, everyone? My name is Sam Stewart here on Ravens Digest. Hope everyone is doing well today. And I just want to say how excited I am that the Ravens are in camp getting some work. We're getting to see new players like DeAndre Hopkins get some work in the purple and black. But before we dive into this video, I want to remind everyone to subscribe to this channel. It is completely free to subscribe to the channel, and it keeps you up to date with everything you need to know about the Ravens as we get into camp here. And as we get into the season as well, it might feel a long way away, but trust me, we are right around the corner from the season starting. You're going to be up to date with everything Baltimore Ravens. So let's go ahead and dive into the topic of today's video. And one thing that has kind of gone under the radar in terms of the NFL season this year has been the signing of DeAndre Hopkins. Now, this was a big signing for the Chiefs last year, bringing in the veteran wide receiver. And there's a couple reasons that I feel like people are sleeping on DeAndre Hopkins going into this year. But let's take a look at what some of the Ravens staff have to say about DeAndre Hopkins' impact so far in camp. And I just want to give a shout out to Kevin Patra, who wrote this article for NFL.com, Ravens wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins impressing in off-season workouts. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the quotes from this article, as I said. The first one I want to take a look at here is from John Harbaugh. He's moving great, plus he brings all that experience. He's been in big games before. He's made plays in the big games. He knows how to make plays. There's not going to be any situation that's going to be too big for him, but I just thought he and Lamar looked really good together out there today. It was nice to see. Now, there's something a little bit different about this situation here in Baltimore. Like I said, the Chiefs signed DeAndre Hopkins last year, and he was kind of forced to be this main guy. You know, I remember, and we're going to talk about the statistics for DeAndre Hopkins last year. They were a little bit down. But, you know, talking about DeAndre Hopkins heading into this year, he's not going to have to shoulder that much of a load as he did last year. Now, I remember some games when he first joined the team, for instance, against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. For the Chiefs, when you saw that real big difference. But then, you know, the Chiefs, one of their weaknesses, and not to dive too much into the Chiefs, but was not having the weapons that Patrick Mahomes could throw to. You had guys like Kelsey struggling last year. You had a lot of issues with the Chiefs offense. DeAndre Hopkins had to was forced to be very, very perfect a lot. Even in the Super Bowl, like, oh, why can't he make that catch? Because he had been forced to make those catches to help them win every single time last year. That's not going to be the case with this Ravens squad. And plus, Lamar Jackson right now in his career, last year and this year, I think we're all expecting him to play better than Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes was not at that MVP level last year. Lamar was. So let's go ahead and look at what another Ravens player has to say about DeAndre Hopkins heading into the season. This is from Mark Andrews. He looks really, really good. He's been making some big plays. I think he's just going to be great for our offense. Just being versatile and having a guy that catches the ball extremely well, runs really fluid routes, and knows the game well. And he looks like when he's out there, he's flying. He looks like when he's out there, he's flying around. He's looked really good. So I think the thing to consider here is DeAndre Hopkins is a big guy, and if he's moving well, because, you know, look at a guy like Larry Fitzgerald. He's a bigger guy. He can still make those catches. But, you know, a lot of times guys lose foot speed. DeAndre Hopkins is a guy that's not going to affect him as much because he has that big body. He is a physical contact receiver. He can make those one-handed catches. He's got great hands. He doesn't just solely rely on speed. But if he's moving well, that's even better. And, you know, for 1 year, $6 million, this is a risk the Ravens, you know, are willing to take. This is not a big contract hit. This is not the end of the world if it doesn't work out. But the benefits are numerous. You already have a great receiving core in Baltimore. And I want to take a look at what Kevin Patra says about that. A perennial Pro Bowler early in his career, Hopkins didn't provide the spark for the Kansas City Chiefs last year after a midseason trade. 437 yards and 4 touchdowns in 10 regular season games, and just 3 catches for 29 yards and 1 score in 3 postseason tilts. The disappointing production in KC led to Questions about whether the soon-to-be 33-year-old still has it. Those in Baltimore seem to scoff at the notion. So I want to read this other quote. We're talking about how they connect. Last year's production in Kansas City might have been a disappointment, but Hopkins is just a year from going 1,000 plus yards in 2023 with Tennessee. The 2024 campaign was the first since 2016 in which Hopkins played more than 11 games and didn't break the millennium mark. All receivers lose a step at some point with age, making it harder for them to separate from defenders. Hopkins' big body and vice-grip hands can help mitigate that issue. In Baltimore, the veteran won't carry the load. Instead, he can be an ancillary piece for Jackson alongside Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, and tight end Andrews, and Likely. Hopkins is unlikely to put up gaudy numbers, but his presence, particularly in the red zone and on key third downs, can make life easier on Jackson. Now, when you have the type of target like DeAndre Hopkins, it not only does things statistically, and we'll go ahead and look at the statistics here just because he pointed them out in that article. I'm sorry, we'll pull that up in a sec. But one thing that you have a veteran presence, you have a guy in the red zone. And for a guy like Lamar, people are going to constantly be trying to solve from the red zone. He's so dangerous down there. You give him one more option, it's going to accelerate his greatness. It's going to elevate his greatness. One thing we talked about last year is, Derrick Henry made Lamar better, but Lamar also made Derrick Henry better. That when you play with someone like Lamar, who's MVP quality, you are able to elevate not only your game, but not only their game, but your game as well. And that's what I see from D-Hop coming. And, just another option you have down there in the red zone is going to free up Lamar to even run for even more touchdowns, to do his thing, to give that Lamar magic that we all know and love. So the thing is, I think when it comes down to talking about, what happened last year with the Chiefs, I think this is, once again, a really good move because Patrick Mahomes was relying on D-Hop so much last year. That's not going to be the case this year. You're not going to be able to double cover D-Hop with the weapons that the Ravens have. And the fact that, Hopkins was even to make the impact that he had at 33 years was huge. But the Ravens aren't requiring him to do that. So this is going to be very big. And you just have a weapon at all times that you can just roll out there and know can make a big catch on a jump ball, a big catch in a close red zone situation. So I personally love this move for the Baltimore Ravens. I love that he's moving well. We know he's going to have the big body and the big hands, but if he's moving well, he's playing free, he's having fun. As a lot of people have talked about how fun it is to play with Lamar, and it's fun to watch him, throw the ball. So I imagine getting passed to by Lamar is lots of fun as well because he makes magic out there on the field. So let me know what you think about this signing and what we have heard out of camp about DeAndre Hopkins. Do you think he's going to have a big year for the Ravens, or do you think his role is really going to be more limited and we won't really be talking about him at the end of the year? Let me know what you think in the comments. All right, everyone. Until next time, my name is Sam Stewart. This is Ravens Digest. We'll see you next time.